Did you realize that this is our 13th episode of season 2? Just FYI, unlucky 13, but
No,
lucky
no
13
such thing.
all at the same
I'm gonna
time.
roll with it.
No such thing. That's
I'm gonna
right.
own it.
That's right. There's no such thing as unlucky or lucky in this house, in this podcast.
Right, because if you have that mindset of like, oh, this is gonna be unlucky, you're
Exactly.
building in.
Then you're going to start searching for all the bad things that happen. Totally. Totally. It's like the movie The Number 23. You're just going to start looking for everything that can add up to
No,
23.
we're gonna make it great. We're gonna roll with it. It's gonna be fine.
Oh, I think we're going to be fine. I know that we have 2 tidbits of information that we'd like to go over first before we dive into our episode topic today, which will be maintaining your plan when everything falls apart and you don't have a plan. Meaning, keeping up with your goals, keeping up with your progress in spite of um, things that come up with your kids or vacation or impromptu travel for work or um, being in tight situations and needing to eat something real quick or how to eat healthy at a restaurant, how to eat out appropriately. We're going to go over all that stuff today. But before we dive in, I have one little tidbit I want to touch on. And I know Menchie's got something good about vaccines. So, what I want to start with is about ketosis and our way that our body takes fat and burns it as fuel. And one thing that I want to mention here is that what happens when we go from a state of using sugars and starches all the time as fuel, we have our insulin release constantly. And yes, we can build insulin resistance, but that's a whole nother side of the coin that we don't need to address today. But, a lot of people think they can just kind of cheat this system by cutting sugars and cutting proteins down. And they'll get their body to use their fat instead as fuel. And that's the term and definition of ketosis. It is a really good idea, but the problem is that your body doesn't get fat or doesn't process the fat into fuel directly from your fat cells. You need an enzyme called hormone sensitive lipase, called HSL. And that's going to turn your fat into a usable form called a ketone. And if insulin levels are too high, then it's not going to let HSL, it's going to block HSL from getting fat from your fat storage deposits. And now your body is literally starved. It's starving for fuel. It's starving for the mitochondria, is starving for fuel to give you fuel. And this can cause symptoms like a crash or sickness, feeling like you have the flu. And some people, they induce vomiting. The reason I want to mention this is because I've had a couple clients who are trying to get into better shape. They're coming back from college and they're trying to get healthy and build healthy habits. So when they get back to college and into the grind of things, that they can, use diet and exercise to help keep them sane. And what they're finding is that they're getting stuck. So one little tip I'd like to provide for people is go online, go to Amazon and look up some ketosis urinalysis test strips. And there's these little strips. You might get 50 of them or 25 of them for $5 or less. And you just pee on them a little bit. In 15 seconds, it'll turn a different color. And you can tell if your body has ketones or is able to produce ketones or not. Whether they're low or they're high, as long as there's something, is a good sign. If you're none at all, that's a bad sign. And there's got to be something that you got to switch up with your diet. But typically, you would notice your ketone production after a 16-hour, 18-hour fast. Or quite frankly, if you're in the middle of a workout, you should be slipping in and out of ketosis pretty readily. So if your body isn't used to using fats for fuel, then you're gonna have a harder time noticing that ketone level. But also, if you're diet isn't dialed in, then you're going to have enough sugars and starches in your system, aka even too much protein, because that's going to be converted to a starch, that insulin is going to be elevated in your system, blocking HSL, preventing you from slipping into ketosis. So it's just a one little home remedy. Use a little ketone test strips to make sure that you're getting into ketosis and your body is able to diversify its energy substrates. And that's all you want is diversification in your way that your body gets fuel.
Good way to do it. A lot of people ask, especially for ketosis, is you have to test. You have to, if you want to be considered in that state or really on that, you have to test your levels. So great way to do it. People will pick it up there.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter like the amount of level necessarily, unless you're like a peak performer. But just the fact that if you're like every day, like you, me, or someone else who's just trying to stay healthy and fit and work for longevity, then you'd absolutely want to verify that your body has the ability to get into ketosis. And for most of us, because we eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week indefinitely, and we have a wide variety of fruits or carbohydrates or even excess protein, our body is primarily using sugar substrates for breaking it down for fuel for the mitochondria. So if you've gone through even a year's period of that, then the fat burning system just builds up dust and cobwebs, and your body doesn't know how to use it.
And that becomes a problem.
Yep, yes, sir. But yeah, that's just wanted to came across an article talking about that enzyme HSL, and I thought it was a really interesting point to bring up and explain to people, because I think a lot of people just think like, well, if I just eat a lot of fat, then I'll be good. But no, actually, insulin can block you from even using that fat for fuel. And if you're eating a lot of extra fat on top of that, then you're just going to start storing that. So it can be very detrimental, and you'll take steps in the wrong direction.
And a lot of people,
but yeah,
you got to explain to them that enzymes kind of run the show when it comes to basically our body. And if you have up or down regulated enzymes, it has effect no matter what. So when people think, oh, just because I'm eating more fat or, oh, I'm eating more of this, that doesn't mean your enzymes are up to speed or up to par. Just because you're doing that now, yeah, eventually it'll kick in and you might have enzymes to turn over. But if you're not completing a whole system of exercise, nutrition, taking care of yourself, these enzymes ebb and flow. And if you're on the down-regulated side, then you're going to see this uptake of probably maybe weight gain or metabolic inflexibility. So it's all about the enzymes and how they operate. That's why it's so important to not just to eat healthy, because people say, oh, you must eat really healthy. It's doing everything else to make sure that your body is running functionally. And it's not eating healthy throughout the week and then having cheat meals on the weekend. Like, that's not going to do anyone really good. It's all about longevity, which we've preached here time in and time out, and how to keep that and how to sustain that. And you got to be doing everything on the right side of the, hey, this is going to benefit me and link to longevity, and minimal on the side of this could probably be a setback or a little bit of a detriment to my body.
Yeah, and I think what happens a lot is people go through that minimal side, and they don't really view it. They have like an observer bias, because even like my close network of people that I hang out with my spare time over here, it'll be funny talking to them. Like, in their eyes, they're doing like 80-20, which I have no problem with in theory, right? It's all about how it's played out in the practice of it. But okay, so I get it. I break it down for them. I'm like, okay, so 80-20, like that means you probably would want to eat really well throughout the week, and eat a little bit more indulgently on the weekends, right? And like, yeah. So we break down each day and we just go through and we're like, dude, you're probably like 50-50. And they start, and it was just laughing. It's like, yeah, you're right. And what happens is little by little, we use up these enzymes. We use up our good bacteria doing work in one sitting. And on the other side of that, so there's enzymes, good bacteria, and then we have our mucosal lining of our gut. And when there are difficult things for our body to process or digest, our mucosal lining will grab onto that and it will help pass that through the system. But when we have an influx, they talk about drink 4 to 6 ounces of alcohol every day, but never overdo it, never binge, because the moment that you binge, the moment that you overdo it, the moment that you redline, you've caused detrimental damage to the system. And if you are eating excess sugar, for example, and you surpass the amount of enzymes that you have to process that sugar, now you're going to be causing damage to your gut lining, and now you're going to be causing mucus to be used to latch onto that sugar. And so the devil's in the dose, so to speak. So I'm all for people living indulgently and following their bliss and following what makes them happy in the moments and stuff like that and living it up. But at the same time, you have to remember to be balanced, so that if you have a couple pieces of bread every day and you're fine, sure, no fix. But if you have a piece of bread every single day and it lead to bloating or arthritis or inflammation or headaches or lack of energy throughout the day or any of these symptoms, all these symptoms can stem back to the gut. Problems with sleeping, you're not getting the results you need to, any tightness in any joints, any tightness in any muscles. This is all a result from inflammation or leaky gut causing your immune system to fire on too much. And you have to think, okay, if I have a sensitivity to excess sugar or excess gluten or whatever it may be, and I just had some, that means I need to go through a period where my body gets itself back to its baseline and replenishes its mucosal lining and replenishes these enzymes and replenishes this good gut bacteria. And I think that's really hard for people to do. I think a lot of people think 80-20 on a daily basis. And they say, well, I was really good at breakfast, I was really good at lunch, and dinner, I decided to have a couple cookies and I had some bread. And when you do that every single day, now you're at the point of law of diminishing returns. So you're not getting benefits from hormesis the way we talked about, where you give yourself a little bit of these stressors so your body gets stronger. You're giving too many little bits of stressors, so now it's accumulated over time, and now you're causing damage to the system overall. But yeah, that was a long-winded explanation that is basically saying I agree with Menchie, what he was saying, and that was my point there. But let's get into your news. You had some
just
news
interesting
you wanna
article.
talk
A
about.
little on the. I mean, you can tie it in with the enzyme down up regulating, dealing with cancer, and so the now testing that came out. They're saying dogs are actually going to get cancer vaccine to see if it works, and then humans could be next. Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy
What?
stuff. So the whole idea is if they can, and now cancer vaccine it's nothing new. It's been around for a while. The idea has been tossed around for probably 30, 40 years.
That's asinine, though.
They're trying to figure out how to do it and if it'll work. Many studies have been done on mice, and more or less it's not coming up as working. Obviously, mice have a little different metabolism than we do and system than we do. So now next they're going on to dogs, and they're gonna inject to see what the results are in this. The thought behind this is within the next 5 years, since dogs live so much less than we do, that they could possibly see some results.
But I'm just super confused. How can you vaccinate cancer? Cancer is evident as cancer is abnormal cells that then grow and mutate, and then it's dysplasia, and the cells replicate just one after the other. And so how can you provide a vaccination that'll prevent abnormal cells? And I'm not asking you directly. I'm just asking. This is the basis for Think Fitness Life. We promote think for yourself, ask the questions, and think it through, chew it out. Because if you ask yourself, how are they going to make a vaccine for this, and then you break down the science of what cancer is, then you kind of realize that this is basically just a big marketing ploy, so they can sell a cancer vaccination. And then if you look at Forbes' top 10 most profitable industries in the past 10 years, pharmaceuticals is always in the top 3. So I call bullshit. I call fucking bullshit.
And that's why it caught my attention. I was like, oh man, this is a good one. I got to read it. The hardest thing about this is they're trying to make it a one size fits all, or, one thing that's just going to cure everything. And like you said, cancer is just so complex, and you're not really thinking of it. To do this, you already have to take cancer cells and kind of implement it into a dog or a person. And what's to say that you giving a vaccine of cancer cells to a dog doesn't have adverse effects? Or in the thought of, hey, I'm going to give you this vaccine for cancer. It actually is going to be cancer, but hopefully your body's going to use it for antigens. To me, I'd be like, hold on a second. So, it's very interesting, and you have to also look into what cancer is. I mean, cancer is basically individualized to every single person. So the antigens that I were to build up are different than you. So it's tough to say that this is actually going to work. And I mean, you might have and I think in the article they said about a 10% chance that it might work. It's like that's not even significant. But it's a tough one. You read this, you're like, come on, people. Do we really have to try to fight every single, problem that we have, or kind of like stemmed with some sort of vaccination or, medication? To me, it's no. At the end of the day, it's got to be, you got to be cognitive of what you're doing, what you're putting into your body, what's around you, what chemicals around you. Because we all know that's the environment is what's basically creating cells to mutate. And if we have a upregulated system of enzymes that's working efficiently, hopefully our risk goes down, not just relying on a vaccine that I'm going to give myself.
I mean, the sad thing is, with the amount of people in this country, like there's just the volume of people, is that they'll find a population base that will buy it, and it'll be enough people buying it that they'll turn a profit, and the power will still, and the funding will still stay with the pharmaceutical industry. And it reminds me, it sounds back to actually an article I brought in for you one time when we were back at Equinox. Remember, it was like studies have shown, or scientists have developed a pill that can give you all the benefits of exercise. Remember that? So it's just like, there's always going to be funding for that side of things, and there's always going to be people drawn to it, because there's always going to be people who want to take the shortcut to just get it done and move on to the next thing, because they're just trying to they're just trying to consume and utilize and enjoy as much as they can and live it up as much as they can without having to worry about any responsibilities or any work. And that's great if you want to live fast and quick and die at like 27, like Jim Morrison or Jimi Hendrix or Janis Joplin or Kurt Cobain. Sure, that's fine if that's how you want to do it. But I kind of want to be lifting and laughing and traveling and fucking up until my last breath. And I hope that's a long time from now, because I like life. So, right. I think it just depends on the person. And I don't think I think it even comes back to understanding like our
Right.
podcast. Like our podcast isn't going to be for everyone,
Should
so
be.
exercise isn't going to be for everyone, and it just
Yeah.
I know. Trust me, I know, and it really blows my mind. But I mean, the fact that anyone for a second could really believe that they could develop a vaccine for
It's
cancer,
I
it
the
just
scientists
it it's
they're
pathologically
I think their heart's in the
asinine.
right place of how do we stop this because it's one of the leading causes of death in adults. But I think if you really want to,
Hmm. That's
right,
fair.
I get
That's
it,
fair to attack it.
but you can't fight it with this antigen or vaccine because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to give it. It's just like the flu vaccine. You get the flu vaccine, and what happens? You still get the flu, and you go, "Why did I get it?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's a different strand or it's a different virus string than the one we gave you." So it's not like you're going to get this thing and it's going to be like, "Oh, well, all cancer is basically going to be fought off in your body." No, cancer is one of the most resilient things, and how it replicates and multiplies DNA. It's going to figure out how to beat it. Or genetically, a different kind of cancer appears, and this is the hardest thing with cancer is every cancer is genetically different. So it's you can't really target one exact thing. It's not like you have
Hey,
bacteria of strep that you know that this will knock that out. So it's tough.
I I want to say one more thing, two more things,
Roll on.
and then I'm done. I know, right? This is a long intro, but yeah, everyone, this is important, and I think we went through a lot of fundamental pieces here anyway. And one piece, one limitation I see is how would they know if this vaccine works or not?
That's why they're
Honestly,
testing on dogs.
because most dogs get cancer
That's what they said.
anyway.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was gonna say not every human's gonna be destined for
Right.
cancer. But okay, the next thing I want to say, back to and they did tie in back to the hormone sensitive lipase. So one reason why that would never be released is because we are so in tune with the sugars, starches, and insulin carb cycle, right? In that um, effect, insulin is also a growth hormone. It sends signals for cells to open up and take the sugar. Along with that are animal proteins that activate mTOR, which just stimulates our growth hormone specifically. So when you have excess sugar in the system and you have mTOR activated in your system and you have not enough insulin to go around for all the sugars that's in your blood, essentially, um, because the mTOR's already been activated, all the cells in your body are told to grow, proliferate. So those abnormal cells, those precancerous cells, now eat up those excess sugar. So since we don't ever have a natural pruning process of cleaning out the bad abnormal cells, we're in a 365-day growth cycle. If we're eating sugars or excess protein or carbohydrates, whether it be wheat or quinoa or rice or potatoes, then you're always going to be in a growth cycle and you're never going to let a natural pruning, so to speak, of your cells. And you're going to be growing those abnormal precancerous cells. Because you have so much excess sugar in your system, and that mTOR is telling all the cells to eat the extra sugar. So that's the last two things I wanted to say just about that point. That cancer is preventative. It's if you work your diet. And yeah, that's all I got. You have anything else you want to
Good.
say?
I think we should roll into what we got in store for tonight.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and it goes right along with how we weren't planning for a 25-minute intro, but now we will adjust, and that's the same exact thing that the rest of this episode is about. It's really heartbreaking when so many people are on such great paths with their results and their progress and their routine, and they're just like machines with the way that they are meditating and the way that they're eating and the way that they're exercising. And then all of a sudden a wrench gets thrown in. And instead of just kind of like picking up back where they left off, they let that floodgate turn into just a disaster. And I don't know what else it is other than just people planning and not having a better idea of how to get back on track or how to keep motivation alive even if you fell off track. And I just see it all the time. People have a bad night or a bad meal the night before, and so then they miss their workout the next day, or they end up eating even worse that night, or since they had a couple drinks, they're going to have a pizza, they're going to have some cookies, and what the heck, they'll have another drink anyway. And it just snowballs like that. It's like once people make a bad decision, I think it is a little bit of a guilt that or not guilt, but it's a little bit of a mental anguish that they put on themselves, and they say, "Oh, whatever, fuck it," and then they just go do whatever they want. So, do you feel like you run into that pretty frequently as well?
Oh yeah, I have tons of people that come to me or be like, "Oh, the weekend was rough. Last night wasn't the best." And the first thing I'm saying is, "So what? It's behind us. It's in the past. Or we're gonna move on forward. We're gonna have a good workout today." Now, that's if they're in front of me. The hardest part is when they're not, and you try to tell that to someone that's not going to go work out with you in the next hour. It's hard because then they're like, they're starting to question themselves, and they question almost like their decisions. And I think it falls back to, okay, it might have been I want to say a good decision, but like a good decision for their brain because they liked it. The food tastes good. The alcohol tastes good. It was a good event. There was friends, whatever. And the next day they just don't have that moment of like, hey, I have to get back on track. And they're in this limbo. And I think a lot of people pick this simpler way of just being, hey, I'm going to kind of do that same thing because it felt good. The brain liked it. I'm going to go with it. I'm kind of going to scale back. Or they come to the gym and they're like, oh, I'm just going to I'm not feeling great. I'm just going to walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. That happens the day after. And then the day after that, they're like, I think I might do that same thing. Way too often.
Yeah.
Way too often. And I was actually talking to someone the other day about this, and they were kind of coming into this 2-week period where they were going to be out of their routine, away from home. And they're like, what do I do? I was like, well, what's kind of your situation like? And they were like, well, I got a place to stay. I have access to a gym. I was like, so what's your plan? And they're like, oh, I really don't have one. And like you said earlier, not having a plan is like the worst thing you can do. So I told her, I was like, you got to sit down and you have to make a plan of how you're going to attack it, or where is your food coming from? How are you going to shop? Where are you going to store it? Do you have a fridge? Then what are the workouts going to look like? Obviously you don't have your big gym that, you're going to go to, but you do have plenty of weights. You have outside, you have everything you need. So what's stopping you? And I think people, just because they're out of their normal comfort zone or their behavior pattern, this stuff starts to change. And came back after 2 weeks and I was like, oh, how'd it go? And they were like, I didn't really eat good. I was off eating, didn't really work out, social things came in between. And I was like, that's not an excuse. None of that is an excuse to stop what you're doing on a daily routine, because especially if you have goals, then it's just going to throw a complete speed bump in, and you're going to be even farther away than you think you are.
I think it's only an excuse to people when they really don't see or understand that there's another way around it. So, you hit everything right on the head, because that's basically the conversations I would have with clients who go away or fall off for a temporary period of time. And it's usually not motivation. It's usually the fact that they didn't have a solution that now led them to just, oh, it's all bets are off. I lost the routine. I lost the diet. I lost my sleep. I lost my meditating. So yeah, I got to get back into it, and they lose motivation to get back into it too because they feel. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's they're negative and they feel like they feel guilty that they fell off it, or they just feel like it's hard to get back
Or
up
that,
to it, or they're having so much fun not being in a routine that it feels good to not be so strict, and they want to
or I wonder
continue like
if
that.
people think
But
their goal, because they did say your scenario, they went and had a bad night, drank, ate pizza. They probably think their goal is so far away and so gone at this point
yeah, that they
that they're
lose
just like,
motivation a little
I'm
bit,
going to be
right?
done for a while. And I
Yeah,
would wonder that that's if that's the same thing. It's okay. Well, then it's tough because you don't want
it's self
to
destructive. It's a self
so
destructive
much. And you
behavior.
can't tell them, well, and then you ask, well, how important is this goal? Because you want them to understand the importance of that. But if they're just like falling off, then it's really not that important to them. And it's for me as a trainer to, listen to someone and be like, oh, my health's not really that important. I really don't care. To me, I'm like, oh, damn, like this person has to see what we talked about for the first 25 minutes of this podcast. They have to see everything that plays into this and why it's so important. And I know deep down it is important to them, but in the here and now, I think they're like, oh, it's so far away, it's never going to happen. Let me just stop, go be with the rest of society, and then complain about it, make an excuse. And then we know that leads to further issues down the road.
Yeah. So let's spend the next 20, 30 or so kind of going over different solutions for different scenarios because I think that's important for people to understand. Like if you don't feel well, that's a really broad way to try to avoid a workout. But there's a lot of ways you can dive into it and actually be effective and still maintain your health, still maintain your goals, and just keep yourself on track and keep your hormetic levels. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Keep your body coming back to hormesis and not losing any, not making any. What's the term you said? You said upregulate or downregulate. Right. We don't want that. So if you don't feel well in the respects of bloating, or you didn't eat really well over the weekend or the night before, you ate a lot of indulgent things, you ate a lot of sugar, you ate a lot of bread, you ate a lot of things that you're not used to eating, and you ate a lot of stuff that doesn't just doesn't make you feel right. Your head kind of hurts. You may be a little bit bloated. You might be a little gassy. You might even have drank a lot over the weekend. I would highly recommend for all those scenarios, you take a big gulp of water, make sure you're hydrated, and go in the sauna. Sweat it out. Force your body to burn those toxins. Force your body to get into autophagy, or you get into a state where you're using autophagy to do that natural pruning process on the cellular level. When you are traveling, or you get up late and you realize you don't have time to make it to the gym and you'll have to do a home workout later, or whatever the travel may be, vacation or a work trip, or an impromptu responsibility that you have to go take care of. You can use body weight techniques, and one of the easiest ones that I can think of is just pick 4 or 5 movements, and feel free to pick more if you're feeling overzealous. Feel free to pick less if you want to start somewhere. And you do it 20 to 1. You go pull-ups, squats, push-ups, crunches, walking lunges, right? And you go 20 reps of everything. Then you go 19 reps of everything, then 18, then 17, then 16, then 15, then all the way down to 1 rep of everything. And by the end of it, you'll have done 220 reps of all exercises, which I'd recommend probably 4 to 6. and you'll have had a great workout. And there's just little tools and tricks like that that you can do to get squeeze a workout in. And I mentioned, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but do you have any that off the top of your head, like little no gym required type
Oh yeah,
workout?
and
Right.
I think that's a big problem for a lot of people is they think, oh, if I don't have my gym, that's it, the end of the world. I'm off my routine. No, body weight stuff, 20, 30 minutes. You don't need 60 minutes. We're not crushing PRs here. We're not going crazy. On these days, you still want to get a workout in, but it's not going to be your crazy development workout. You're not going high volume, high sets, high resistance. You're doing enough for your body to say, hey, I'm going to give it a workout it needs for the day, get the heart rate up, train the system. So I recommend all full body exercises, keeping heart rate elevated the whole time, more almost circuit like. So you're exercise to exercise. You can pick, I mean, I like yours, 1 to 4 exercises. I'm even almost like hey, pick, 3 exercises, 30 seconds a pop, do a couple rounds of that, rest it for 2-3 minutes, couple more rounds, rest 2-3 minutes, couple more rounds, and be done. Another thing I tell people who are, out of their routine, I won't even go to vacationing yet, but you might wake up in the morning and be like, oh, this is my normal thing. I'm somewhere else. Get out of bed before you take a shower, brush your teeth, do maybe 50 squats or a wall sit for 30 seconds and go that for 3 or 4 sets. Do something for about 5 to 10 minutes that's going to get your body up, awake, moving around. And then maybe you have time later in the day, do 20 more minutes of physical activity. It doesn't necessarily have to be, 45, 60 minutes at one whack. Now, I know a lot of people, especially me, I'm more of hey, I need to get 45 to 60 minutes in. Sometimes I don't have that. Sometimes I've done 15-minute workout, high intensity in the morning, and then I have 20 minutes of downtime where I kind of can focus on more stuff. That's fine. That's usually my go-to if I'm staying at someone's house or I'm traveling. I don't have big blocks of time to set aside for my workouts, or I don't have a gym with dumbbells, racks, and cables. That's how I program a lot. And I tell
Yeah.
people it's just about moving around consistently. And if you're not able to work out, say you're traveling at a conference or work, get in when you can. I mean, do 10, 20 squats when, before you eat, after you eat, stand, keep moving around after you have dinner or breakfast, go for a leisurely walk for 10, 15 minutes. That's still really good for your system and really good for your health. We have one of the best equipment you can ever have is 2 legs. If you do have legs, uh, go outside, go walk, go run. If you have even if it's a
Yeah.
yard, run around somewhere, go find something to do. But I think that's a big thing when people get
Yeah.
stuck is like, oh, I don't have equipment or I don't know what to do. Pick an exercise, do 100 reps of it, rest it, do it again, 200 reps, you're done.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's such a great. I was just about to say that. I was just about to list some exercises, like chest, push up, back. Find something to do. Get underneath and start pulling yourself up to like a underhand row or
Probably
inverted
one
row.
of the
Excuse
best
me.
ones I'd say is
Um,
do 100 squats, rest, do another 100. I mean, squats is probably full body. It's going to be the
oh,
best bang for
totally.
your buck at this time. Get squats in.
I like I like I like push-ups. I like an underhand row somewhere. Sometimes I can do it in a door frame. Sometimes I can do it on with a chair. Um, I like doing squats, and I like doing leg raises, and I like doing crunches, and I like doing walking lunges. And like Minty said, I'll just do like 100 of everything. We took a little staycation and I got an Airbnb in Park City, and there's an okay gym there, but it was nothing like I didn't even want to myself to pretend like I had gotten a real gym workout. So I just stuck to doing body weight stuff, and you know I like the sauna a lot, and I like the steam room a lot. So I went in the sauna and I did 100 squats, 100 leg raises, 100 crunches, and 100 push-ups, and then 100 of just breathing exercise, just 6 seconds in, 2 seconds out. And by the end, it's 30 minutes. I've had a great workout, and I'm done. I'm out of there. And you don't have to do it in the sauna. I just like to do that because it spruces it up, and it's another way of stepping it up for me. And it allows me to maintain my physicality and my endurance and my um, ability to use energy substrates when needed, and allows me to maintain all those processes when I go back to a gym. So there's just so many ways you can use your environment around you or use your body to get a good workout in. And I think a lot of people also, I think one reason why they might stay away from these bodyweight stuff is because it hurts. A lot of people hurt when they squat. A lot of people hurt when they do push-ups. A lot of people hurt when they do lunges. So, take that time to address your mobility. Look up more stretching techniques. Look up more, maybe a yoga flow. I mean, mobility should be the foundation, should be the start, should be the bread and butter of your workout. And even every single day, if you know for a fact you have bad mobility in your squat or bad mobility in your deadlift or bad range of motion in anything, before you go and do that one, you need to test your mobility first. You need to make sure that you can get into a full squat and keep that chest tall and prominent. You need to make sure you can do a lunge properly without being in pain, and address that pain. Find where the location is and stretch that area, or look up full body yoga mobility videos on YouTube and follow them.
And for kind of stepping back, for the person who might not be motivated to, do these said workouts, or they've kind of fallen off the rails, so to say, is another tactic I use is, I know Fitbit does this pretty well, and if you're not moving around, it'll kind of be like, hey, it buzzes the band and say, hey, move around, or it gives an alert. Is put these exercise in your phone as a calendar, as a reminder, as an alarm, and throughout the day, it could just be like, hey, it's 12:30. My phone's going off or buzzes. You look, it says, move around for 10 minutes straight. Go do something. Or you might set as, hey, you had a pretty rough night the night before, and you're like, damn, I kind of slept in. I got lazy. Set on your phone, be like, hey, I'm going to work out at this time. And if it goes off, and when it goes off, and if you do not go do what you wrote down you're going to do or move around, that's a mental note. Say, hey, I had a moment of almost weakness, and I didn't do what I planned to do. And then ask yourself, well, why didn't you do that? And what's stopping you at the end from doing that same thing? And that's what we want to stop, is people from going to this loop of stopping because they got thrown off, and be like, oh, well, I just kind of fell off right there. I mean, there's so many tactics around. Put it in your calendar, right on your wall, right somewhere you can see. Pack a bag the night before.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to do your homework ahead of time. We're going to talk about food here in a second, but a lot of people go on vacation, and most of the time you can look up if there's a gym in the area that has classes that you could just go in and follow, or if you could even have a hotel gym, that's great, but you don't need that stuff. I mean, if you are going on a hike somewhere and you're outside in the wilderness, challenge yourself on all the difficult parts, on all the really vertical, steep parts. Challenge yourself to get up there as fast as you can. And on the way down is where you want to take your time. That's where you're going to get most injuries. But, go ahead, and if it's not that difficult of a walk or a hike, go ahead and drop down and do 10, 15, 20 push-ups every now and then until you've done 100. Well, then once you've done that, all right, now move on to squats. Once you've done that, maybe find a branch and do some pull-ups. I mean, there's really easy ways to incorporate workouts into your everyday life and still enjoy your time, and still enjoy the environment, and still enjoy being outside on a nice day, and be vacationing, right? Or, vacation, but set yourself up to do some activity that you haven't done, and it will be fun and also maybe a little challenging physically. Like, I know a lot of my clients have kids that love trampoline parks, and they go with them. And the first time they went, they didn't believe me, and now they love it, and they are drenched in sweat afterwards, and they have a great workout, and they have a great time, and they're bonding with their kids. Like, there's so many ways you can still get a lot of work in and physical activity in, and still have fun and still engage with your kids or enjoy your time on vacation. So it really is about being creative and planning ahead for this stuff, because what happens is so many people get to the end of the vacation, they're like, I didn't work out at all. But I have plenty of clients who, hey, Matt, we're planning to work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the mornings on the beach. Can you send us some beach workouts? Absolutely. So, if you're, the quote of the day, I think, is, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. And it's so true, because this isn't hard stuff. I think it needs to be addressed and talked about, because if it's not in your head, if you don't have the vocab or the idea, then it's just not even thought of. So we're just trying to make people more aware of, there are always solutions out there, even if you're not perfectly strict with a macro list or an exercise modality of sets and reps perfectly in your week. It doesn't mean you can't maintain your results and maintain your progress and keep things moving in the right direction. I think the next one that I want to talk about is nutrition, especially while vacationing or even on like a work event, right? A work dinner or work lunch. And so many people have a hard time. This was big at Equinox. So many people, and more so because it was the heart of the financial district in Boston, less about it being Equinox. Equinox is a great gym. But these people would say, oh, well, I have a lunch with some clients. I'm going to have a drink. Why? Why do you have to have a drink?
This one always confuses me.
It blows
so much.
Yeah. Because people give into what's that word called? Where it's peer pressure. People give into peer pressure, and they want to fit in, and they feel like if they go against the grain, that they're going to be ostracized and they're going to be looked down upon. But it doesn't work like that. I mean, there's so many easy ways. Like, well, I'm just trying this out for my health. I want to see if this can work. I'm just giving it a shot, not drinking anything for during the week. I just want to see how my health markers improve. I mean, it's a simple conversation, but a lot of times if people don't have that thought out in their head, they won't be able to say that. They'll say, what the heck?
I tell people to blame me.
Why not?
They're like,
yeah, right. I do too.
And a lot of
blame
people,
your personal trainer.
Well, they'll tell us, they like, oh, I get a dinner, but I don't want to go out and drink, but this person likes to, or it's a dinner. And I'm saying, well, just say you're not feeling well, or say I'll be mad at, or blame 100% me. Or better yet, say like, hey, I get a personal training session at 6 a.m. Sorry, I can't do this. I've done it before. I didn't feel great. So I want to be kinder about it. And at the same time, I know it's tough for people to say that, because they know they're going to get some backlash, and that's fine, because you're going to get backlash. It's, these social environments that are created because of, what people think or how people think they should act, can be very problematic when it comes to social settings of drinking or eating. And you really have to just know you're going to take some flack and take some crap. But at the end of the day, who cares? It's all about how you feel. And if you go home and be like, hey,
totally.
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares what other people think?
If you're like saying, if you have that plan of what you're doing, go. And I've had plenty of clients come back and be like, oh, I used your tactic, or I didn't drink, and I woke up this morning and felt great. And I know it's consistent. I know it happens a lot, but sometimes you just got to say no, and you can be like, no, I'm all set.
No, but I think a lot of people don't understand that, they're like too afraid to lose a sale. They're too afraid to lose a potential client. They're too afraid to not be buddy with someone.
People
and
will still
be different. And if you're sitting down with a potential client and they're judging you and judging whether they're going to do business with you based upon whether or not you're going to have a drink with them or not, then that's a fucked up
But
situation
do you,
in general. Like, then it sounds like that they're probably not going to stay with you very long, and it sounds like it's not going to be worth your time. But
right.
hey, who the fuck am I? I just, own my own business and I work 20 hours a week and
But
I get to live my life how I want.
But who knows?
And
Maybe that other person
yeah,
that
whatever.
you're going in thinking that we have to drink. Maybe they don't want to drink, and they're saying, "Man, I really don't want to drink because I have to get on a plane." You you could actually,
Totally. It's just
and
like a
you could,
standoff.
if you're going into
Yeah.
this, you could actually be like, maybe I'm just gonna, I'm not feeling well, or I'm gonna have a water tonight, and I got a busy day tomorrow. The other person might be like, "Whew, perfect. I'm gonna join you. We'll have a conversation. We don't have to go crazy." You can kind of shape people around you by doing certain behavior things, and that's what we all preach about, especially at Think Fitness Life, is creating a new environment for people. And the other aspect I get is, and I'm sure you get this, oh, it's Monday morning at the gym. I kind of love Monday mornings at the gym, bright and early, not many people are there. You're kind of waiting like, hey, when's this rush coming in? And I think a lot of people, it's the weekend. I don't know what to call it. The weekend slump. Friday, they're good. Monday through Friday, they work out. They do their things. Saturday, Sunday, yeah, they go friends, family, parties. But what happens Monday morning when they wake up? It is very hard for people to get back on the routine Monday morning. The weekends are one of the biggest deterrents, I think, that stop people from actually completing their program. And Monday, they wake up Monday, they're like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. I'm all tired. Maybe went to bed late Sunday, and they skip Monday. And that sets them up for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if they come in. Sometimes people are like, oh, I'll just do something light, or I'll come in the next day and do it. Why? Just get up and do it the next day. Set yourself up for success every day. And Saturday, Sunday aren't days off. They're not these days where you just shut down from your routine and don't do anything. You still have to be aware of what's going on, what you're putting in your body. Nothing should really ever stop. I mean, we never really stop in life.
No, it should be a continued practice in some regard. So if you're talking about the bigger idea of practice of taking care of your health, then yeah, absolutely. You want to do something like maybe you go on a hike on Saturday, or maybe you go biking on Saturday, or maybe you go for a walk on Saturday. You do something outside activity, and maybe if you weight train Monday through Friday, then great. Maybe you do a yoga class on the weekends. Maybe you just stretch on that Sunday. Um, I think a lot of people view it as being a kid, and it's like it's like when you get out of school and like, yeah, and you just throw everything aside and just woo, everything's I can do whatever I want now, no
No,
responsibilities. Like, sure, that's how you want to live your life, but you're the one who lives with the results that you're putting your body through. So think about that next time. Like you can't just throw everything out the window. I mean, you have to be doing things in a way that you enjoy it and putting it in perspective that makes sense. Because you don't want to be doing any of this
correct.
stuff and it being work. It should feel enjoyable to take care of your body. It should be enjoyable to put good things in your body because you feel better. That's the intrinsically motivating part of it. And then real quick, back to the nutrition
No,
side
we're
of
gonna
things,
get
just
there.
when you're on the go. I think this is another important piece. Yeah, I think this is another important piece to mention to people is like when you're out eating at places and you need to avoid dairy or gluten or lectins or whatever it may be, that's really hard for people to do when they eat out. And I think a lot of times people feel like they are causing extra problems for the wait staff or the chefs, and they're really not. I mean, I have ulcerative colitis. I don't really ever bring that up unless a waiter really dives in deep and is going above and beyond. And he's like, "Is there anything else you really want me to like stress? And, like, what can you not have?" And I'll just be like, "No, like, don't worry about it. Like, I have it managed. I just have da 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 da." And they're like actually interested. They want to talk about it because they see different um, restrictions all the time or different preferences all the time, and they're just trying to be helpful. And sometimes you get someone who has a bad day and they might be short with you about it, but the bottom line is it doesn't matter. It's about you and your health, and you have to live with the results. So a common tactic I've used to tell clients to do is like, just say, my personal trainer has me on a diet, or my doctor wants me to try this thing. Can you mind helping me out? And they're going to jump and chomp at the bit because they want to help you out, because one, they want a good tip, and two, it's exciting for them to go above and beyond and help somebody. I mean, I'm in the service industry. I think a lot of people like to help other people, and I think a lot of people work with people, and it's rewarding when you can do something with your efforts to make someone's day just a little bit better. And then as far as the chef's concerned, I mean, they're chefs. They're artists. They love that stuff. It's almost boring and monotonous to them when they have to constantly make the same dish over and over again. When they have a little bit of special order or special predicament, most chefs are actually pretty open to it. They jump into the situation, and then they come out with something that's even better than what was on the menu. So don't be afraid. Learn to have a script on hand for what you need to say, for whatever your goal is, whatever your limitation is, whatever you can eat, whatever you can't eat, whatever you can drink, whatever you can't drink, and just have a plan. Have a plan for yourself based upon your goals and what the wrench is, whether it's and the wrench can be negative or positive, whether you're planning for the fact that your schedule can just change at any given moment, and having a couple backup plans always on hand, that can be helpful. Or you're planning because you have a work event, or you have a client dinner, or you have a vacation. Just make a plan
for when
yourself.
The plan goes awry. I think that's a big thing. Plan for when. Tell yourself that somewhere in this plan that I have laid out for, let's say a month, there's going to be one day where it's going to go awry. And how am I going to react to that day? Am I going to let it basically throw off 29 other days? Or am I going to be like, no, I'm expecting this to happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm expecting it. I know how to deal with it. And previously said, remember, it's all about you. It's not about what other people think or other people judge you for. It's what you want, your goals, how you feel, what you want to get out of it. At the end of the day, when people sit down and watch TV, they do not care about you. They do not care that they saw you eat a lettuce wrap on the train. They're not thinking, the last thing on their mind is that. And I think people get stuck that, I'm going to get judged left and right. No, people don't care. Remember, it's all about you. Decide for you what is best for you. Know that there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some very bad days that happen that, you're going to get thrown off or jostled, and you got to get right back on and have that adversity to remember, go forward. You're fine.
Yeah. I think, another quote comes to mind, and I have nothing else to say for wrap up before we go into our after hours convo. Do you have anything else you want to say for wrap up?
I am good.
All right. The quote that comes to mind is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for having healthy habits or a healthy lifestyle or enjoying your life or being able to move well or participate in any activity or have the strength you need to in any given scenario, in any emergency scenario, and be that hero that you need to be for your family and loved ones, then you're going to fall for anytime anyone offers you a cookie or offers you a drink or says, let's go take shots at the bar tonight. And then you all of a sudden spent hundreds of dollars and you're drunk and you've binge drank. So that's all I got to say. And that wraps us up this week for our episode. And if you guys want to stay tuning in. We're just going to go into our after-hour show here. So pretty much completely unfiltered, even though I dropped a lot of F-bombs this episode. So thanks, guys. See you next week. I was
One of those
fired up, man.
topics
What can you
that
say?
that
Shit.
just it gets you because you hear it so often, and this is where people fall short. And you're
I was just gonna say, it's like we're so
and I
emotional and
think people
passionate about it
have to
because
realize that
exactly we
we
hear it.
hear this over and over again, and this is one of the biggest things that people ask, like, how do you keep doing, or how do you stay on track? It's a tough one to answer because I really don't have a. I mean, I know what drives me and why I do it, but it's hard to tell other people that because I don't think they can understand that or they can't see that.
Yeah. Well, I think people want the answer, and it's not like we can give you the answer. It's like how you said, we can give you the framework so that you can go find your answer. And I think that's a really important point because um, when we answer these questions for people too about like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's almost always with a story because it's like trying to tell a story of how we even came to a fork in the road that we didn't know what to do, but we had to assess, think it out, and come up with a solution. And there's no better answer than just try to be solution oriented. But that's easier said than done anyway. But it's like instead of looking at the problem and letting that make you a victim of your circumstances, start looking at that as like exciting challenge. Like, ooh, okay, how am I going to overcome this? And how am I going to solve this problem?
Yeah, it's the way of thinking.
Um,
If you guide yourself to that solution mindset, it becomes easier and easier. And right,
True, true. It's like a reflex. So if you're always used to getting stuck and just moving on, you're going to be really good at that. And you have to respect that your body's going to be fighting your ability to try to push through and work through it because your body's going to say, or your mind's going to say,
and it's
fuck it, let's
very
just go
easy
around. All right, let's
for
just
your
turn
mind to
around.
take that easy route.
And
Yeah, system
to
one
fall
takes
into that
over.
trap.
It's
Oh, yeah,
and that's the
always.
tough thing. It's system two is a very taxing system on the body, and it takes a lot out of you. At the end of the day, I am pretty much drained from everything I've gone through throughout the day. Sometimes other people are like, oh, I still feel pretty active. It's like, well, if you're always taking the easy road, you're not actually really challenging other systems of your brain to really function. You're not going to have that solution oriented kind of mindset. But it's one of those frustrating topics because you want to give it to people so bad, but at the end of the day, they have to discover it for themselves. And it's good. I think it's good, right, for people to hear this and hear that they're not the only ones in the boat. And just because we work in a gym all day doesn't mean we have don't have time not to work out. I mean, there's days where I'll come home and work out and it's nothing crazy. I'm not squatting heavy, but it's a 20-30 minute workout. Or I've had days where I have to get up earlier, do 20-30 minutes of high intensity work, then go to work because I have a full day and I have meetings at night and I have an event to go to. So it's not, everyone's world's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It's not cut and dry, and it's not perfect. And I think a lot of people view that trainers' lives are perfect, and it's not. It's that we are comfortable with the uncomfortable. We are comfortable with everything that gets thrown into our lives that throws us off our schedule because we have to be. I mean, right off the bat, when you're trying to make a career as a trainer, you have to be flexible at burning the candle at both ends, especially when you're building your business. You have to be willing to take that new client who wants you at the gym at 5:30 in the morning, and you got to take that new client that wants to work out at 7 p.m. at night, and you have to burn the candle at both ends, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust. And then all of a sudden, when you build up your business, and when 3 people fall off, you got to be willing to adapt and adjust. It's just how it works, and there are little tricks and little ways you can get control, but at the end of it really is. I can't describe it in another way than just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, understanding that when you're in a peak, a trough is on its way. When you're in a trough, A peak is in its way, and you don't let the highs get you too high. You don't let the lows get you too low. You destroy the negative, you limit the positive, and you stay neutral. And in that regards, it's not like when you get like 5 texts from clients and you have to move around your whole schedule and now your workout's lost. It's not a negative. It's not a positive. It's just something you deal with. And there's no harping on it. There's no emotional anguish on the brain. There's no type 1 system taking over, preventing you to tap into that type 2 system. There's you have your amygdala processing, which is just your emotional impulses driving your decision making, and you have your prefrontal cortex, when you can slow down your emotions and actually think things through in a clear mind, in a clear way. And I think a lot of people don't know how to tap into that system all the time. And quite frankly, we have a lot of adults who are just amygdala processing all the time anyway.
And we've,
So
as a
it's just
society,
fun
we've
how it
kind of
works.
driven that. And we could talk system 1, 2, and basically we're talking growth versus fixed mindset. And I think that plays another huge role in it. And I know we've gone over this, but how many people live in the now, the right now, and they don't even look at how can this affect me down the road? And I think that's what maybe separates people like you and I with other, and it might be other trainers too, is I'm kind of always looking, I wish I mentioned this earlier, looking down the road into, okay, what is this going to do for me tomorrow, the next day, the day after, not in the moment. I'm kind of always looking that one step ahead aspect. And not always, there's some times where you stop and you enjoy life for the moments, but to get there takes work.
But even in like the smallest moment of like, take a lift for example, and take a lift of whatever it may be, whatever set reps and weight you're doing, like in that moment, you're thinking this is going to help with my 1RM, or this is going to help with my power, this is going to help with my speed, this is going to help with my time under tension and controlling the weight in the hole or the pocket. So like we do always kind of attribute it to the bigger
And
picture. I think that
it's
that
good
is
for us
a
because
good point.
we are basically programming a big picture. We're not looking at data in a microcycle or a macrocycle. A day does not mean anything to me. It's how am I going to put together 4, 6, 8 weeks together to build what I want in 12. That's like the end game right there. And maybe people need to start looking at an end game a lot more and just focus on their end game of what they want it to be, rather than, oh, how am I going to get there? Because if you go every day, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? It doesn't really work. I mean, I tell a lot of people, you got to trust the process, trust it day by day, and you'll get there.
I was I think it's actually a little bit more advanced for people to do that, because I think it's easier for the everyday population person to look at it as every day, understand that you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to work out, and you're going to, love your life or love the people you're with in some sort of way, right? So it's just like figure out that day. I think that's the place people start, but I think that next piece is, yeah, trying to attribute it to that, attach it to something, because once you've kind of gone through that rudimentary process of, they say 20 30 days to build a habit, and you've understood, like, I just got to get my workout in today, I just got to get my water in today, I just got to get my protein in and vegetables in today. And once you've done that enough where now those things are set, then yeah, it's like, well, why am I making sure I get this workout in? Oh, because I'm training for this Ragnar event that I signed up for, or I'm going on a big hike in the Appalachian Trail, or whatever it may be, that you kind of attribute it to a little bit of a bigger picture. And if it's health, if it's longevity, then that's even more, let's say, all the more reason to make sure you're doing something on
Think
a
about
daily
that daily.
basis.
Think about what it is your goal is, or see, I don't like goals. What it is you want to get done. Write it on a calendar, but always have that in your mind of what this process is. and you think about it, and you don't have to act on it. Sometimes it's just actively thinking about it and putting it in your mind enough. I know you said on, I mean, podcast, I think it was season one of writing a list down before you go to bed of things you got to do the next day, and just basically putting that thought in your brain and making you aware of it. So then when you wake up, it's not like gone out of it. It's like, nope, it's right there. We're still here. We're working at that. But definitely a tough topic for a lot
Yeah.
of people, but I think, if people listen and get on the right route, that they'll be fine. But like anything else, it's work. It's tough work, and you just got to bounce back from the rough days and the rough weekends, and you got to get back and right back to it. Not get back at 50% or half ass it. No, you got to get back to where you were. Like you said, I think people know that they're going to feel like crap, and sometimes it's good to feel like crap. If you've had a rough weekend of drinking and Monday morning's going to kick your ass. You're going to feel like dog shit. And the next time you go out, you're going to be like, am I actually going to drink that much? Because I was dragging the last time I did something like that. But we are very interesting
Yeah.
creatures when it comes to like mentality, motivation, and
Well, we can tap in and
100%.
reprogram that stuff, and we are the only creature that can get to that higher level of thinking where we can actually adjust the way of our thinking. And a lot of people get overwhelmed by that, and they get a lot of anxiety around that because it's it's world
But I
crushing
think the
and world
problem,
opening
a
all at the
big problem
same
is
time.
society is kind of guiding us towards the opposite of that, of don't do that, make it easy, go home and watch TV, don't think about anything. Just it's society is very very designing of what our brain and body wants to do, and I think a lot of people have to be careful of. We can't over design this because a lot of the
Well,
stuff that we have luxuries, Instagram, Facebook, social media, internet, we're creating this new habit and behavior for people to say that they think it's okay, but it's actually not. So when it comes time to do said tone or training of your mind, that seems completely irrational and way out of reach, and they can't do it.
I think one thing that's important to recognize is that in the free market that we have, all these people that come up with entrepreneurs themselves who come up with these ideas for successful companies or products, they're always finding a solution to a problem. And you have to ask yourself, is that solution going to hinder me in any way? Because everything is that is good is bad. Everything is that is bad is good. Everything that's good has its negatives when you extrapolate it too far. Everything that's bad actually has some good in it. So if you look at something like um, the first time that they decided to put a trash chute in, and you're on the fifth floor, and you used to walk your stairs all the way down to take your trash out and then come back up, and say that you don't work out ever, and that was like your main exercise, and now you got this trash chute. Well, people would just be like, "Yes, it's so exciting! Like I don't have to walk down now." Like, oh, what a hassle! Like, well, actually, the it's actually bad. It's actually bad now that you have a trash chute that's so convenient for you because now you lose out on walking all those stairs every time you have to take the trash out. So now the negative part becomes how your body isn't going to be strengthening or improving or getting any physical activity in, and it's just going to be slowly deteriorating. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our after hour show. I honestly feel like we talked a lot of good stuff in this last 13 minutes.
That's
That
why
should
we
have
do
been
the
in
after
the real
hours.
episode. That's why we did the after hours. That's right. That's right. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up the after hour show and this final episode, episode 13. And we will catch you next week.